Hello, welcome to the second discussion for Ulysses by James Joyce. And today we're going to be talking about episodes 13 and 14. And we will just go across the top of the screen. So, Alan, you can give your impressions of these two episodes first.
Okay, well, Nausicaa is one of my favorites. It's I think it's easy to read, and it's divided into two parts. One told from Bloom's point of view. I forget who's first. One's in first person, I think, and the second, Gertie's in third. And I actually read there's a podcast called Blooms and Barnacles, and they started here in Portland, and then now they got married and moved over in Dublin. But they did it from an Irish pub. It's not far from my neighborhood at all. But I had read the climax scene in here with the fireworks going off and Bloom getting excited, as it were. Then I like that how it ends. Like, I am then the cuckoo. I'm a cuckold.
Yeah.
I'm a cuckold.
Right.
And so, you want to go around and just talk about Nausicaa?
Or do you want to do each chapter one at a time? Yeah, we can do it that way. Yeah. Okay, then if you're done, Alan, you're up.
So we're just talking about 13?
Just 13 for the moment.
So, I thought it was a lot easier to read than 14.
Indeed.
I was very moved by 13, and saddened by it. It left me with a very sad feeling. So I'm curious, Alan, when you said it was your favorite chapter.
No, not my favorite. Just one of mine.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, my favorite is Ithaca, 17.
I know this is the chapter, or at least one of the chapters that got Joyce into a lot of trouble.
Yes.
So I could easily see you reading this and having no idea what was going on. But it made me very sad. It just made me very, I always feel sad for Bloom, and I really struggled with this. Here I feel like he's just trying not to go home at this point because he doesn't want to get home with what's going on at home. So, here he is at the beach and he sees this woman and he's attracted to her, and I think she's flirting with him.
She definitely has flirtatious ideas.
Yeah.
She's much younger than he is.
Yes, right. So he's
young lady, yeah.
But it just ends up as so much in his life with, just frustration and humiliation. And it just made me very sad. I don't know if she knows what he's doing. I don't know how close they are, whether she can see what he's doing.
I don't think so, no.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. So
I don't either.
Okay. Good, then.
But it'd be a little criminal. It'd be more cringeworthy.
Yeah.
These days.
It just made me so sad. This is a man who doesn't have a sex life with his wife, and then he sees a woman that he finds attractive. He is attracted to her, and it just ends up being, a scene of self.
Yeah.
He's just masturbating basically, and
he's been doing that all earlier on too.
It just made me very sad because I see him as somebody who identifies with other people and he sympathizes with other people, and he felt a lot for her, and he felt empathy for her and sympathy for her, and then it ends up in this just sort of very lonely.
Yeah,
he's by himself. You know,
Yeah,
not
that's
that
not
he
like
should be
taking
with this
300.
woman. You know, not that he should be with her. He's a married man, but it just made me very sad that he, you know.
And it's all self-inflicted. It's
Yes.
all his reaction to his son dying is that he cannot tolerate the idea of touching his wife and I guess producing another
Well,
offspring.
no, that's not necessarily true. They do touch in that. It's like they don't have actual.
Oh, okay,
Whatever
when I
that
said
means.
touch, I meant
They don't have something that could generate another child.
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it
If
just
he's
makes
too
me
afraid.
very sad.
But I interrupted you, Greg. Sorry.
No. I'll just comment. That's well, I'm with Pat. It's like it's a very. It's difficult to say. It's like he's just so nervous, and we're not at Molly's point of view yet. I know that's the last point. I'm really curious to eventually get to Molly's interpretation of their relationship.
Joyce does drag it along, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he does.
Yeah.
He certainly does.
Are you done, Pat?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Will?
Thanks, Pat.
I definitely agree. I enjoyed 13 more than some of the other chapters so far because it seemed the most straightforward narratively just to read because it just maybe that's because it's from somebody else's perspective completely and it's not Bloom or Stephen. But I thought there's an in-betweenness for all the characters so far because I assume like you were saying, Pat, positioning of the characters of Gertie and Bloom. I imagine she can only see him from the top half because she only describes his face while looking at his eyes and seeing his countenance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's completely obscured and she can't see what's going on. But then she's obviously attractive, but not at the same time, unless I'm missing further. Does she have a disability or a deformity? Yeah.
Has a limp.
But she still shows leg, which I think he sees but then looks past. So I think he's willing to look past it because
Yes.
he thinks she's looking past his problem, even though she doesn't know what his problem is. But I don't know if I was missing some metaphor or symbolism between the two twins, the children that were playing ball. That seemed like there was some type of parallel being drawn there potentially as well for them positionally potentially because there's that type of one was very abrasive and the other one was very yielding. So I don't know if there was something going on there as well. But I thought it was heavy-handed euphemism for the fireworks scene.
Yes.
that would have been less heavy-handed had he just said it potentially. Because it just seemed very odd. It was very oddly worded. Like it really starts on me that he decided after going through everything he's going through with such experimentation to then put such a thin veil over the top of what's going on. It was very, very strange, but for readability, I think it was one of the better chapters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So far.
And it was curious is we sort of chuckle at the fireworks and the metaphor, but correct me or someone correct. I don't think any author had ever gotten near that metaphor before Joyce did in here.
You're probably right.
Unless, I mean, I don't know a lot of Victorian porn. I mean, there was Victorian erotica, and maybe there was something like that, but they're like intended to be more mainstream.
Yeah.
And even though the scene is what got the book banned as pornography, I'm kind of looking at this and going like,
well, it's one of the examples on page 300 in this edition. Actually, 13.7.26 is the part I read all the way down to the paragraph with "oh so lovely, oh soft, sweet, soft," and it's really nothing besides the Roman candle bursting at the end and all that. I like it, like Will was saying about Jack and Tommy Caffrey, the kids. Then we have little baby Boardman, like they're playing, like take care of the baby.
yeah.
That was it for me for the main takeaway from.
Okay, all right. Debs, what about you?
Yeah, like everybody else, I found it one of the easier whatever we call them. What are we calling them?
Episodes.
That's what we're calling them. I found it one of the easier episodes to interpret. I didn't go rushing back to my Hastings every couple of pages. I, like Pat, thought it was very sad. I mean, there's nothing erotic about a middle-aged man sitting on a beach masturbating in front of some young women and 3 very small children. It's all quite pitiful, really. It's interesting the way the other girls treated Gertie as well. And I found it slightly strange that Bloom was almost slightly more turned on when she walked away and was lame. I thought that was odd. But
yes. Go on. No, go on. I'm sorry.
No, I actually have a comment that I don't know if I should hold off until you're done.
No, go for it. Go for it.
When you talk about, for Bloom, especially in that age, it would be very difficult or more difficult to start a relationship with, let's say, any woman. But if she's lame, her prospects have gone down.
Yeah, absolutely. So she might be more available to him.
She might be more willing to go with Bloom. And that's probably why she sees him sort of or maybe attractive, saying, maybe this is the man who will overlook my disability.
She is a bit of a contradiction, though, isn't she? I mean, she comes over, or is made to come over initially as quite prim and proper, and takes care of her appearance and chastises the others for using bad words, etc., etc. And then quite clearly, blatantly, tries to attract Bloom's attention, gets her legs out on a public beach. And I mean, that's quite a contradiction, I thought.
Because she was
oh, look.
Well, hello, kitty. Oh, he's a one-eyed cat?
He's my one-eyed cat, yes. This is my one-eyed ginger ninja. Wants to know who I'm talking to. Nosy.
Ginger
right,
ninja.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Okay, Roy?
Yeah, I'd like to just add on to what Debs was saying. At the next page, 301 at like 770 about the lame part, and then he talks about menstruation. Like sometimes Molly and Millie together. He brings up Martha again. Do we all remember Martha and the letter? Martha.
The letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a reoccurring theme throughout the novel. I'm not going to say too much more about it for spoiler reasons, but that occurred when I forget what episode even, because it occurs a few times in his consciousness, but she misspelled world for word, something like that. I don't like when you use that dirty world for when she meant word, meaning she's not like the greatest secretary or typist, and that's what Bloom was initially advertising for.
Now,
anyway.
Alan, I thought Bloom was putting that out as a front. He said, I'm looking for a secretary.
Yeah, exactly. I guess.
Yeah, I read it that way.
So did I.
Right. And
but as a typo, it makes an accidental poem, really. I mean, world then turns it into this sort of little poetic phrase, which is rather good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know what Bloom's first letter was. So, she's replying to his.
Right.
So, and then she put like a flower in it for him.
She threw away.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Throwaway is another thing. Keep an eye for that. The gold cup. We haven't gotten to that part yet. And I think it's Richie Nolens, or I forget if it's Nosy Flynn or somebody with a throwaway cup. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay. All right,
Well,
Roy.
way to go. Yeah, we're like halfway through, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So am I going now?
Yeah, you're going now.
Go on, Roy.
So 13 then. I mean, like everyone else, I found it quite accessible and kind of beautiful in a way. I thought the way the religious service is, that kind of features more and more as you go through it. It's almost kind of cinematic, really. So in a straightforward realist narrative, you could just be told that you can hear the sounds of the service coming out, but here it's like you go inside and you know who's doing it and what they're doing, so it's sort of woven in a bit more than you might expect. I think must have been what I read in Hastings, but that the early sections are written in the style of a women's magazine kind of thing. It's like deliberately sentimentalized, and then that breaks down, like you say, you get the more sort of sexual and challenging things, like a creep in and subvert what you have been sort of merrily reading along with this rather cute narrative. And yeah, it's so icky, and yet it is kind of beautiful and elegiac as well. It's an amazing thing, really. And I guess at this stage we don't know if we're going to see much more of Gertie again or any of the others. But the impression I get is that things tend to link together more than you might expect.
Mm.
But yeah, good section.
I did find this one. I could picture the scene in my head. I thought the imagery was very lovely.
Yes.
In this episode, more so than in the previous episodes.
Again, I think that's because it's a very straightforward chapter. It's close to being what you would expect in a normal novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a Dubliner's story.
Yeah.
If he found this in Dubliner's, oh yeah.
I also think that I was quite jolted by what he was doing. You've got this lovely setup with children playing on the beach and everybody having a nice chat, and all of a sudden there's an old guy masturbating in the corner. It came as quite a shock, I think, after the style of the prose in the lead up to it.
Do you think the lead up's got the same type of impact as is it Humbert in Lolita? You put in that weird position of sympathizing with somebody when you know you shouldn't sympathize with that person in terms of what they're doing, but you've got that beautiful prose build up and the very very cinematic scene setting to it, and yet you put in this position, you're like, I don't know where to look on the page all of a sudden.
Okay, that's what he's doing.
I know not only one, but two women actually that like DNF'd it because of this scene that we're talking about.
Oh, really?
Offended by it, yeah.
Who is it? Not in our group, or is this?
Oh no, not in our group.
Okay.
No.
Because we've had 300 pages nearly of getting to sympathise with the guy and knowing he's in a thought. And the thing with the postcard or the letter, the sort of sexting type of equivalent, it's like that's very distant, and it's sort of, you could say that's that seems more like it's made a jump from here's a guy who's got this kind of pornographic relationship with somebody by correspondence to masturbating on a beach. And it's his shirt tails. It's his shirt that gets sticky. There's a technical thing there. I'm kind of baffled by, but
Well, one of the things I was going to do is Joyce actually, when he's talking about this, is like it's all under the surface, and is Joyce telling his readers that you think everything is so prim and proper, girls on a beach, watching children, man in waiting, and there's really all this sexual tension going back and forth, and you're just not noticing it, that what's going on.
Yeah.
Bloom
And that you're,
and Martha are having an epistolary affair, you could call it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
in a way, Bloom and Paul D. and Molly are having affairs. If you want to stretch it that far,
Okay. Well, I kind of know it's going to be happening in chapter 15 because I've started listening to the lectures in the great courses, so I know what Bloom is going to be up to in the nighttime.
Oh, good. Yeah, there's a lot of obscenity in that chapter, but
Okay.
we go on to 15.
Oh, just one other thing is like I say, is like I really kind of felt for Gertie because here she is, a young woman. Technically, she's not unattractive, but her marriage prospects,
Right,
because
Turkey's
she
Lane.
claims, are probably very low, and she obviously wants someone. Isn't there a scene where she says she wants a husband to come home to, or a husband to come home to her, not necessarily as a sexual thing, but just to have a normal life.
Yeah.
And she may not be getting that. We don't know. And that's
No, she was in her young 20s. So, and in 1904,
04
that's old, isn't
for a
it?
young, for a woman,
Yeah.
single.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Is that still the case? Is that still the case with certain class stratas, though? Because if Gertie is, it doesn't necessarily imply that she's very upper class. So, are you necessarily a spinster by that point if you're not out in society in like a upper class sort of fashion?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know at all.
And she's very meticulous because she says like she's got like one good, is it like a grey dress and one good, and she rethreads things as her own underwear and stuff like that. So she has different coloured underwear for different coloured occasions or something along those lines.
Yeah.
That indicated that she's not wealthy at all.
Yeah.
Or was that normal back then? Was it more normal to have just a few pairs of skivvies or whatever and reuse them? I mean, nowadays, it's all throwaway.
Oh, you say that, Greg. I was laughing at myself yesterday for mending a pair of trousers that I bought in a charity shop rather than throwing them away. So that sort of thrift still does happen, Waste not, want not.
Sure, I've done the same with Levi jeans. They split in the pocket sometimes. So luckily, we have a seamstress here in the building.
Wow.
Nice one.
That's nice to have on hand, I guess.
Mm.
Yes, so just wrap up. I like everyone. I just found this chapter just so much easier to get through. That it was I was actually what's the one before the 12 or whatever, 11 and 12. I was like, okay, do I really want to finish this? And I said, okay, chapter 13, I'm going on, which I guess is a good segue into 14. And like
Everybody's favourite.
But also, do you think Joyce did that on purpose? He lulls you into a false sense of security with some easy to read prose, and then he throws masturbation on a beach at you right at the end, just to give you a jolt.
Maybe.
Sure.
I have not been reading the commentary specifically, except for the great courses and.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of essays on it. You should go down the rabbit hole on that, Debs.
Yeah.
Tell us in the Discord.
Because I certainly felt that, I'm breezing along nicely, thinking, my God, this is such a relief after episode 12, and then, whoa, what's he doing?
Yeah.
So let's get very brief. 14 was a bit of a slog for me.
Oh yes.
Especially the last number of pages, it's like he was almost pulling random words and sticking them together and seeing how well they fit. And if it didn't fit well, he found another word that fit better. And when it fit okay, he just put another word at the end.
It's because some people are drunk. They're all drunk for one, but
yeah, that's where they're spilling out of the pub, isn't it, onto the street?
Right. Onto
At
more.
the end, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're not the only one who didn't like it. Harriet Weaver didn't like it at all. She was a patron of Joyce, the guy was published. But go on, Greg.
No, that's about where I'm going. I mean, and there is all this symbolism, supposedly, between the development of the fetus, and you learn that Joyce had a picture of fetus, or multiple pictures of the development of fetuses, so he could match the prose to that development. And I think it was you, Pat, who was talking about it doesn't even really match.
Right.
Reality.
Exactly.
It's a man who says, "Oh yeah, I know all about pregnant women and fetuses." And I'll just match it up.
Yes, exactly. That was my feeling exactly.
Joyce,
Yeah.
James,
the language,
you don't know Jack.
The nonsense with the different forms and the talking in all of the different styles, that has nothing to do with the growth of a fetus or childbirth.
No,
it felt
nothing
like
whatsoever.
a contrived academic exercise to me.
It was like, again, James was showing off just how smart he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you show off how smart you are, you're not really being all that clever in the end. It's just hollow. It's hollow. It's a show.
That was
if nobody in the world understands it, how are they going to know how smart you are?
That's true too.
I was expecting like a Flowers for Algernon type thing where you were saying like the language progresses along with the fetus. So I was expecting it from that perspective where it's very broken.
Exactly what I was expecting.
And it would clarify as it went. So at a push, I can imagine Joyce being right in that it's the development of a fetus, but because there's so much towards the end of discussion around things like abortion as well and things going wrong. At a push, I could see somebody making the argument that not only is it stream of consciousness and wild to read, it then goes drunken stream of consciousness and wild to read.
Yeah, and it's gibberish. Yes.
And it's gibberish and arguably terminated at the end. I don't know if that's kind of where it ends. Even though the baby is delivered, as far as I understand from the actual story as it was going.
The baby is delivered.
Yeah, it none of the parallels were there for if it was that case. So I'm not sure. I think apart from him just saying fetus every now and then, and them having very unmedical. Well, they even say, don't they? They're having a very medical conversation in front of an actual doctor, because the doctor gets called away from drinking to go and deliver a baby, which I thought was reassuring.
Yeah, also very disoriented in this chapter. Like, was it common for people to gather at a maternity hospital?
Do you know, I thought that. I mean, what's the relationship between Bloom and Mrs. Purefoy? Why is he attending her birth? Why?
That is weird.
If random people turned up when I was in the maternity hospital giving birth to my daughter, I would have been very unimpressed.
I didn't feel like it was. I felt like it was the scene, the people who were together from the news paper. It feels like I felt like it positioned it like they just spilled into a pub next to a hospital, rather than potentially being in the hospital. Like, I can imagine them literally wandering in and being turned around by a nurse and being told to get back out again because it's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And
she did tell them to keep the noise down at some point as well, didn't she? And control themselves.
But Bloom was there because he was looking after her. He heard she was in her third day in labor, but why was he there? I mean, who was he? Who was she to him?
I've got no idea, because that's not been explained at all, has it? I mean, she's just.
It's not. But here's sort of my excuse: is this is 1904.
Yeah.
You don't just call up and say, "Oh, how's the wife doing delivering?" I mean, if you want to find out how she's doing,
you show up.
You just show up and go, how's it going with the baby or the delivery?
Yeah.
And then you're sitting, someone else showed up, and you said, well, let's just sit here and talk about it for a little bit.
But then equally, he finds out much earlier in the day that she's been in labour for 3 days and makes an active decision to go to the hospital to see her. And I've got no idea why.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he doesn't even call her by her first name. You know, we're still on Mrs. Purefoy terms.
But you know, he is involved in a lot of people's lives. Like
Yeah,
earlier,
he does.
he was, you know, making the insurance check for the, you know, the
yeah.
kid whose father had just died, the funeral they had been to earlier. Like he is involved in people's lives. I'm not sure who they are to him, you know, what, and he seems like a do-gooder, you know, but what he's going to do for her, you know.
I understand. It's also that Bloom is kind of out to save Stephen from himself to the book. That's sort of like the overarching, it's like, Bloom, you got to take Stephen under your wing and make sure he doesn't mess up. Right. So I do see that, like you said, he's actually a very caring person.
He is.
He
is.
He wants the world to be a better place.
But everybody else is so scathing about him.
Yeah,
I think that's what I mean. Why does everyone sort of like dislike him? Is that a good interpretation?
Yeah, he gets put down a lot and disrespected.
Yeah,
very much so.
And he's about to get super duper, if that's a technical term, disrespected.
Yeah,
in Cersei. But I have, when we were talking about the different styles, I have a note in this edition that the style disintegrates into fragments of dialect and slang, including revival preachers' rhetoric. As Joyce said, a frightful jumble of pidgin English, N-word English, Cockney Irish, Bowery slang, and broken doggerel. That's from a letter. And there's a lot of Zarathustra in here, too. I'm sure you guys noticed, like the Ubermensch.
Yep.
But also stuff about that is not translated just says, like, you're milking your cow named Affliction. Now you are drinking the sweet milk of her udder. Things like that, but it's from Zarathustra.
That seems a very fashionable thing to do, doesn't it? To dip into Nietzsche or whatever it might be.
It was time, yeah.
Plucking those things out, like aphorisms on love and hate and stuff like that, and just cherry picking.
When you're talking about in the Great Courses, the professor actually mentioned a lot of the names that these styles come from. I mean, a lot of them don't resonate with me because they're not famous names. But if you were reading the text of the lecture and say, this was whoever's name it was, and this was his style, you could go back and refer to it. I'm sure the Great Courses actually has a PDF of notes.
Yeah,
it does.
Notes, and hopefully the professor say, "Oh, these are the influences for these styles."
Yeah, they named the writer.
He actually named it.
Greg, to your point, Hastings does that too. At the end of the chapter that's discussing this episode, it has a list of parodies with opening passages and line numbers. So it tells
actually, I do have a marked out
that's being imitated.
There's like 32 of those, I think, isn't there, Pat?
32.
Yeah.
32 different styles, different authors being imitated, or sometimes they're imitated, sometimes they're being mocked. You know, they're actually being parodied, but they're all listed in this.
Like 14 is Oliver Goldsmith, Irish-born. You know, number 15 is Edmund Burke, Irish-born again, political guy, and I think I have them all. Yeah.
Because Elizabethan, Miltonian, John Bunyan.
Richard Sheridan, whoever he was, etc. Huh? Yeah. But meanwhile, I like the stuff. We have another sighting of the Man in the Mac.
I like that too. That was the highlight for me.
Yeah.
The Man in the Mac.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I can't even think of his name now. The guy who pops up in cameos in the films, in his films, Hitchcock. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Only, all of it. It's a
Hitchcock.
spot Hitchcock. It's like it's spot the man in the Mac. What's he up to now?
Can I just say, I actually like this chapter.
Okay.
Good,
But
tell us
I-
why.
Please,
It's the only one where I took one look at the first paragraph and I went immediately to Hastings and read the guide first.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's
all
exactly
the other
what I
ones
did.
I thought, I'll read it, get it straight first, and then figure it out afterwards. And that I thought, nope, let's get the. So once I kind of knew what the game was, I sort of appreciated it. Not that I know, who Sheridan is or stuff like that, to the point where I think, oh wow, good one. But things like Arthurian legends and these things I do know, and I could think, well, that's done pretty well. But also, I mean, the other thing, leaving aside the gestation stuff, which I'd agree is pretty clunky, he's still doing the Odyssey,
Yes.
and the point of this Odyssey section is that the men kill the oxen that they're not meant to kill. They've been specifically told, look, go on the island, but the oxen are sacred. Do not. You've got one job. Don't eat the oxen. And they all do, and the only one who's kind of innocent of that is Odysseus. So all of these, it's pretty hard to take all of these medical students and their friends having a drinking session in a maternity hospital, but they're meant to be doing something that's transgressive and horrible. Maybe even Joyce's high wire act of doing all these parodies, maybe even that's meant to be something that's like, he says, like, here's my dick move, I'm doing this ridiculous showing off. just like the killing the oxen in the Odyssey. I don't know about that bit, but I did find I was kind of enjoying the progression of it and the way it then breaks down into this weird collage at the end.
Well, that's like a certain type of reader who really loves to deconstruct a text. And there are like students and professors when I was at university. That's what they love to do. They love to go over the text and just find every little tidbit that points over here and get that reference here and connect all the dots and say, ha ha, I figured it out, Joyce. This is what you were doing. And I just my method of reading this time around, I've deliberately avoided that. I don't want to try to connect the dots because there are just too many dots to connect. And how would you pick one dot from another? So
I found this episode undulated for me. There were bits I thought, no, don't get this at all. This is just a group of words thrown together on a page. And then I had some sort of element of understanding, and I'm thinking, right, I'm getting into it now. And then he'd go off on a tangent again, and then he'd come back down. It was very up and down for me. I don't think it's my least favourite episode. It's not my favourite episode so far, but it wasn't the one I found most difficult. It was very up and down, but I did like the way it descended into absolute complete chaos at the end. I really enjoyed that. These drunken guys spilling out onto a street. They weren't speaking much sense to start with. They are definitely not speaking any sense at the end.
Right. It's gibberish.
Yeah. It is. I mean, when I read it this
We've
morning,
all been there.
I just read it. I said, okay, I'm powering through the pages.
Go on, Greg.
No, I'm saying I just powered through the pages. I had my text. Now, I don't know if anyone else is listening to the audiobook by Donald Donnelly. He's he's just really good at narrating this text. I mean, he just captures that Irishness of the text, where sometimes you're reading a paragraph and he breaks into this little doggerel song. And you're like,
is that the one, Greg?
I don't know. It's not that edition. It could be.
Okay.
But it really kind of, if I don't know if I would be able to get through this book without listening along with the audio.
Yeah,
Because
I'm listening to it.
because it continually reminds me that this is Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
And just the way that they talk and speak, and it helps. But again, when I was listening, I was hearing the words, I was seeing the words, but in my brain there was not a whole lot of cohesion happening. Now maybe I really should have made the effort to slow down even more so, just like really read super slow and savor every little sentence, but that's not how I try to do it.
Yeah. I've had in my life, a lot of periods in my life where I've had time to spend with groups on this, and then time alone. Like I said, this one is all annotated up, the whole thing, and I'm real curious, especially to see what you all think, but particularly to see what Greg thinks about Cersei. I think he's going to have much to say about it.
It's obviously going to be a super interesting episode, and maybe we should have one of these just about Cersei.
Yeah, maybe.
That's one of the things is if we're sort of done talking about chapter 4, and I think we're sort of at the end of what we have to say about 14.
Yes.
The only thing I would add is that Hastings book that that we're reading, 3 of us are reading, it does say that yes, that's the one. On a reread, a lot of people just miss chapter 14. They will read the rest of it and completely skip episode 14.
That's what the Great Course has said about chapter 3. He said
really?
a lot of people just skip chapter 3 and
move on.
Say nope, can't do this.
Yeah, we didn't know. We read both of them.
I read them.
We did.
But going forward about the rest of the schedule is week 5 is next week is just chapter 15.
Yes.
Right.
That's quite a big chunky one, isn't it?
It is, but I kept it that way because I didn't want to divide the chapter into 2.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, it's going to be harder, but I think Alan was saying because it's a drama, there's a lot of white space.
Yeah.
So it's going to probably shrink it back down to like 120, maybe 100.
Yeah, it's in script format.
And then after that, we have chapters 16 and 17. Both of those are actually very short, 48 pages and 64 pages. And then we end up with Molly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's the shortest. I mean, that's only 37. But I from what I remember, Molly deserves a whole week to herself.
Yeah. Ithaca's episode 17, and
that has a week.
One of my favorites, and it's a little daunting.
Okay. So,
yeah, but
do you want to have a separate live discussion for chapter 15 next week, or do you want to do another 2 weeks and do 15 and 16 together?
I think 15 on its own could work because it's stylistically so far.
Okay.
Arguably, along with the newsroom, the newspaper scene, it's the most format wise, it's the most different from the rest. So it's going to be like discussing a play, like you say, rather than narrative prose. So
yeah,
I'm up for next week doing just chapter 15.
Yeah.
Everyone else?
Sure.
Yeah.
Technically available as of today?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just check one thing. That's 4th of July weekend. Let me just see.
Oh, that means nothing to me.
I know, but it might to me. I just want to make sure.
Other people don't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize there's a divide between the seas.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
4th of July, and Deb and Will say, "Well, gotta go."
I might wear a red coat.
I think I'm okay.
Okay. Well, you know something? We don't have to do it on a Saturday night. If there are conflicts with schedules, we can adjust.
Yeah, this is like live on tape.
Now, this is not live. This is recording.
Live on tape.
And once we're done, I will end the recording. I'll throw it through like a quick video editor to improve the sound and so forth, and have it posted tomorrow morning.
Cool.
Actually, I'm surprised. We got 200 views on the last discussion.
Really?
I don't know how many people watched to the end. I didn't check the analytics, but 200 people watched part of it, which
Wow.
amazed me.
I think that's a good thing for the long format, because I took part in one of I know he's taking a break from YouTube at the moment, Mark at Book Time with Elvis, on his podcast series he was doing of the Quill series. Even though those are like an hour long each or more, and they've got like a couple of hundred views each as well. So I think there is an interest there for that longer discussion format.
Yeah,
on
and
certain
who
topics.
knows, future students of Ulysses, when they have their paper due the next day and haven't read it, be watching our videos or your.
I want our definitive take on it, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I will call that the end. So,
I think you guys are really going to enjoy Cersei.
All
Cheers,
right.
guys.
Next week.
All right.
Yeah, look forward to it.